in order to understand the destination to which Ikhwan is taking Egypt, and by implication the world, we need to answer these questions. And so if there are those in Egypt, like myself, who are worried about the enforcement of the Sharia at a time when the ulama of Islam have failed us, don't blame them. Don't blame them. How should the Sharia be enforced? Is there such a thing as a constitutional sunnah? Give us a moment to spend some time on this subject. Yes, there is a constitutional sunnah. And the constitutional sunnah is linked with the enforcement of the Sharia. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us all as one people. No. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. If Allah had so wished, He could have created us as one people. No. Rather, He created us with multiplicity, with diversity. إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إلى آخر الآية. And so mankind was created with multiplicity. And that multiplicity was also the cause of being sent down. لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا. So different laws were sent to different people. But the last one was sent to Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, the Sharia. Is the Sharia to be enforced upon all of mankind? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well then, on whom is the Sharia to be enforced? The answer? On those who accept the Sharia. On those who willingly submit to the Sharia. Those are the ones on whom the Sharia is to be enforced. Ikhwan al-Muslimun should first return to the Quran to recognize that Egypt is not one ummah. No, it is not. At the very first page of the book of Egypt are the Jews, the Christians. And these Christians in Egypt, according to Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, are our kith and kin. For Ummul Mu'minun, the mother of the believers, came from them. From their midst is one of the mothers of the believers. And so be kind to them, said Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So you are not one ummah in Egypt. What is the function of a constitution? When we turn to the constitutional sunnah, we get the answer. A constitution is needed when you have different people who want to come to live together. Then you need a constitution. If you have only one homeless people who have a law of their own, you do not need a constitution. Their law is sufficient for them. It is when you have different people who want to live together as an ummah, a community, only then do you need a constitution. Cannot have a constitution without consensus. Ikhwan, constitutions are not established with referendums. You do not establish a constitution with an election. What nonsense. In order for a constitution to be established, you must have consensus. The Christians walked out of the constitution discussions in Egypt, and you still went ahead with it. We apologize to the Christians of Egypt. Yes, we apologize to you, because this is an embarrassment for us. This is not the way. This is reckless, and this is misguided. It was after 7 months of patient negotiations that Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam finally succeeded in forging a consensus of that on which there was agreement, minimum agreement, amongst all the units of the state, people who constituted a polity, who wanted to live together. And thus came the first written constitution in the world, the Mithaq of Medina. Is it that you have forgotten that Mithaq? How it was established? Had I been Egyptian, I would never vote in the referendum. Never. And I urge all those in Egypt who are in agreement with my views, no, we will never vote in any referendum for Sharia, because that's a departure from the wise and enlightened Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Rather, you have to engage in patient negotiations with wisdom, something in short supply today, isn't it? With wisdom, to try to bring about a consensus, and that consensus will give you your constitution. The Zionists will never want you to say about the Sharia is this: Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to call people to the way of Allah with wisdom. ويدعوا إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظه الحسنة. Is this wisdom? Is this the way to impress upon the Egyptian people, that you are rushing through a constitution and a referendum within a short span of time? Is this wisdom? No, it's not. Well, then what is wisdom? Let me tell you what is wisdom. Wisdom is that you will enforce the Sharia as a parallel system of law in Egypt, alongside whatever rival systems of law there may be. But you have to demonstrate the superiority of the Sharia over all rival systems of law. No, you do not stamp out the others. Let the civil law continue. Let other systems of law that other people may choose continue to operate. And you have to demonstrate with your enforcement of the Sharia that you have a superior system of law which can outshine every rival. You can't do that unless you produce the scholars of law. And law does not exist in a vacuum. No. The scholar of law must also know politics and economics and monetary economics and history and the movement of history, in order for him to be able to understand the complexities of today's legal system, legal challenges. And so my word of advice is that instead of enforcing the Sharia upon a people who do not want it, or worried about how it will be applied. Do it a different way. Attract them to the Sharia by operating the Sharia in such a way that it will display its evidence superiority over all rivals. One last word, Ikhwan. One last word. What direction, what destination are you taking Egypt to? And what destination is the world heading to? We said that Israel is about to replace the United States as the next ruling state. That they'll make it possible through the Arab Spring for a so-called Islamic government to come into Egypt. And then they'll help that Islamic government to take control of the military. And then they'll help that Islamic government to take control of the judiciary. So that the Islamic government is in total control of Egypt. And when the Islamic government is in total control of Egypt, and the Sharia is enforced on Egypt, and civil war comes to Egypt, they'll smile. And then they will exploit the weakness of the ulama to make the Sharia look stupid, to make the Sharia look foolish, to make the Sharia look savage and backward. And there are many ways that they can do that because of the failure of the ulama today. And then they will be able to show to the world, this is what Islam is doing in Egypt. And these people are bloodthirsty people, and they only want to cut the throat of Israel in order to be able to attack Egypt and yet not be blamed for committing aggression. Is Ikhwan going to take Egypt to that destination? Knowing that that's the destination to which the world is now moving? What should we do, O Egypt, at this moment? After the colossal failure of the advisors to the present Egyptian government, they should be removed. And men of greater wisdom should take over. Number two, no constitution should be enforced upon the people unless and until it is arrived at through consensus. The Christians in Egypt have an equal political right to the Muslims to a constitution to which they will agree. Number three, that the Sharia should be enforced only on those who are willing to submit to the Sharia. So it will not be the law of all Egypt. No. The other systems of law will function alongside the Sharia. Number four, that when the Sharia is enforced, we should not so enforce the Sharia that we look like fools. Rather, Islamic scholarship must rise to the occasion. Islamic scholarship must rise to the occasion to operate the Sharia in such a way that it demonstrates its evident superiority over all rival systems of law. That's not easy. That is not easy. That requires the best Islamic scholarship in the world today. And also it requires that Islamic scholarship must expand its vision beyond law to encompass all other subjects that are relevant, including the one in which I specialize, ilmu akhirul zaman. I pray that these words of mine may not offend, may not hurt. I pray that these words of mine may be accepted in the spirit in which I am given them. Yes, I have used harsh language to condemn reckless and misguided behavior because the moment is now too dangerous. I pray that Egypt may step back from this pit of fire at which it now stands. The reason may prevail, good sense may prevail, and that the constitution may be established on the basis of consensus and that the Sharia be enforced only on those who are willing to submit to the Sharia. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.